Despite all the negativity around the Australian economy at the moment, the employment market is continuing to hold up strongly. Back in January, the business's economic experts were all expecting that situation to change. Well, nearly 6 months on, here's what they think now.
If anything, the jobs market has been one of the surprising outcomes for the economy. When we hear a lot of story about job losses, but there are still significant job gains in a lot of service-related areas, and that's mainly in health and professional services, and of course in mining, and that's driving a lot of direct mining jobs, but also the jobs related to that sector in all those groups that service the mining sector. So the result is we think the jobs market's holding up pretty well under these pressures, and we're looking for the unemployment rate to be about 5.5% by the end of the year.
Still think 6% is completely feasible. Of course, the recent numbers have been strong. I happen to think the recent numbers are probably bunk. Very hard to explain both the early March quarter GDP number and the most recent employment data. I think that they exaggerate the underlying strength of the economy and that we will see softness in the second half of the year. That means RBA rate cuts, and it means an unemployment rate that's up at 6%.
The Australian labour market is one of our great stories. We've not only been able to grow employment, we've also got an increasing labour force participation rate. I think the unemployment rate will still be 5.5 at the end of the year, or at least in that range. It won't be anything more between 5.5 and 6, and we can be very proud of our labour market performance in Australia.
Well, the non-mining part of our economy, the consumer, the retail and the construction sectors, they're big employers in Australia, and they've taken a little bit longer to pick up in Australia. So we think the unemployment rate is probably going to have a bit more of an updrift over the second half of this year. We've revised that forecast from around 5.25 up to 5.5 for the end of this year.
Since then, Toyota and Qantas have released quite large numbers of job cuts. And since the lag then, I think by end of year, the lag will have caught up. And I think that the unemployment rate will rise to about 5.4, 5.5, which is where we predicted it then. And so I think we're quite happy with that.
And as you can see, all our experts still think the unemployment rate will rise this year. The other point to note is that the commerce students from Luther College in Melbourne are continuing to give the professionals a real run for their money. And we'll be checking in again with our experts later in the year to see how all their predictions are faring.